Hello, Namaskar. Welcome to week 6, lecture 4, Football Conditioning Program Design, case 1. So we covered what exactly conditioning fitness is. Then we moved to how to design, then we moved to how to test your conditioning ability. Then we introduced sports need analysis and sports need analysis applied to football sports. Now let's apply all this together and create a sample program design for a footballer. So the objective of this lecture is, the first objective is to review the fitness training design framework. Remember, this is the framework which would be used to design the fitness program for this case. Then we will review conditioning fitness, Lawson and Rushit's HIIT framework. Again, using this framework, we are going to design a fitness program for this case. Then we will introduce the case where we will understand the background with respect to the physical ability, the exercise experience and the fitness level of the case. Then we will apply the first steps of fitness training design framework, that is setting the SMART goal. Then we are going to learn how to create the training blocks. This training block is nothing but periodization. This is nothing but periodized training. Then we will select fitness variable to be trained within this periodized block. And finally, for each week, we will select progression, training method, volume for the given training block. The outcome of this lecture is you should be able to create a new fitness program using fitness training design framework, where you identify the SMART goal, then you set a periodized training and planning, and then you design a fitness program per week per fitness variable. So within this framework, starting from here and ending to program design, this is what you can practice if you apply fitness training design framework. The next outcome is you should able to set a SMART goal for yourself or the exerciser. You should able to create a periodized planning and training in order to improve your own fitness variables. Let's begin by reviewing the fitness training design framework. Now within this context, this framework has total 5 steps in order to design a program. It begins by clearly identifying what fitness variable you are going to improve. Then you create something called as periodized training and periodized plan, where you create the cycle, the mesocycle or a block within the time frame for which you are designing the program. Once you create the periodized block, then you select what fitness variable you are going to train within that block. This is step number 3. And then step number 4, for each fitness variable that you have selected to train within the week and within the block, you design the program. So this is fitness training design framework. Now let's recollect conditioning fitness variable within Lawson and Wishitz's HIIT framework. With respect to this framework, there are 6 types of conditioning. Conditioning 1, to develop aerobic conditioning. Conditioning 2, type 2, to develop aerobic conditioning plus neuromuscular qualities. Type 3 conditioning is you develop aerobic conditioning and anaerobic conditioning. Type 4, you develop aerobic conditioning, anaerobic conditioning and neuromuscular capability. Type 5, you focus on improving peripheral aerobic conditioning, anaerobic conditioning and neuromuscular ability. And type 6, you develop only neuromuscular ability. Now taking this types of conditioning one step ahead, let's connect how these conditioning can be developed by applying different types of HIIT. So if you want to develop aerobic conditioning, you select short HIIT. If you want to develop type 2, you select short HIIT and game based conditioning method. If you want to develop type 3, you select short HIIT and long HIIT. Again, within this framework, it becomes very easy to select a training method that will help to develop the respective types of conditioning. Now let's apply this framework of HIIT for football case. Now this is a male 23-year-old football striker. What is the current exercise history? Skill practice, that is sports training, since last 6 months. 3 days, 2 hours per session in the evening, PM means evening, plus 2 matches per week, which is of 2 hours in the evening. The intensity of the skill training is at RPE 8, which represent very hard intensity of skill training. Now, what is the fitness level of this exerciser? The main purpose here is you identify what is the weak fitness, what is the strong fitness. You as a practitioner, you as a fitness coach, or you as a simply athlete or an exerciser, you always aim to improve a particular fitness ability or improve the sporting ability. If that is the aim, you start by identifying what is weak. So within the context of the fitness variable, your role over here is to identify which conditioning is weak, aerobic or anaerobic. You may also think about the foundation of aerobic and anaerobic, that is the aerobic capacity. Is that weak? If that is the case, you may have to start by developing the aerobic capacity first before developing much more advanced and demanding fitness variable like conditioning. So for the given case, aerobic capacity is required to improve. It is weak. Aerobic conditioning also needs to improve. So which fitness variable needs to be worked on? CRF, aerobic conditioning. and anaerobic conditioning with respect to fatigue and speed, because the fatigue index is 40% when performed the RAS test. So here overall what needs to improve? Aerobic capacity, aerobic conditioning, anaerobic conditioning. So your fitness program would be complex if more than one fitness variable is required to improve. So for a given case, there are 3 fitness variables that need to improve. And this is identified by writing a very measurable goal. Now, with this ability, this football player is not able to perform high intensity repeated activity, which is demand of his sport for his level. And we have 2 months, 8 weeks to improve that ability. So the first measurable goal that is mentioned is to improve the fatigue percentage, drop it down to 25%. Ideally, it should be close to 10%. However, considering the 2 months of time frame, it would be impractical to drop down the fatigue percent from 40 to 10%. So for the first 2 months of program, the achievable and realistic goal is set to drop the fatigue percentage to 25. And the next goal is to improve his anaerobic speed. So here, considering that we have only 2 months of time, his aerobic capacity still needs to be developed. There is still room of improving aerobic capacity. But considering that we have 2 months of time, the focus is more on developing anaerobic conditioning and aerobic conditioning. Now, this is how the first step is executed. We set a very clear goal of improving aerobic and anaerobic conditioning by measuring it with person fatigue and the average speed by the RAS test. Now we create cycle. So this is a 4-week of periodized plan. 2 cycles are created. 1:1, one cycle, another cycle of again 1:1. So I am giving a stimulation for 1 week, then I am giving a retaining for 2nd week. Again I am giving a stimulation for new stimulation in the 1st week, and then again a retaining for the 2nd week. So a periodized training is created. Now within this periodized training, what are we going to train? So the availability of the training is 4 days. So in week 1, the focus is first on increasing aerobic conditioning, type 3, 2 sessions for that, and then 1 session for increasing the average speed. The next block, the focus completely shifts from anaerobic conditioning to training more at higher intensity. This is the first cycle. This is the 2nd cycle of the training. Now let's see how the program looks. So with respect to increasing anaerobic conditioning to reduce the fatigue percentage, the progression is given as a new stimulation because the athlete has never trained to improve his anaerobic conditioning. The type of training choose is long HIIT. Now the volume that is long, when we say long HIIT, it means the work interval is minimum 1 minute and maximum 5 minutes. and the rest interval can be minimum 1 minute and maximum 5 minutes. So for this case, work interval is chosen 70 seconds and rest interval is chosen 70 seconds. So it is 1:1 work to rest ratio. So within this 70 seconds, the athlete is sprinting for 30 meters. How many times? 9 times. At what intensity? 100% of the mass. Now, the next workout, improving high sprint repeated ability. Now, for your the training method that is chosen is repeated sprint training. A repeated sprint training, the work interval is 5 seconds to For repeated sprint training, the work interval is up to 10 seconds and the rest interval can be up to 1 to 2 minutes. So the speed that is chosen is 100% of maximal sprint speed. So at that speed, the athlete is going to run for 6 seconds, covering 30 meters, and he is going to do it for 10 times, and the rest interval would be 1 minute. That is, over here it is given a passive rest, that is no recovery, absolutely standstill. So the volume that is prescribed is a total of 360 meters. Work interval is 6 seconds and rest interval is 1 minute. So 6 seconds the athlete will run at 100% of MSS, covering 30 meters, and he will repeat that for 10 times. This will be the volume for improving repeated high speed run ability. Now in the next cycle, that is next mesocycle, week 3, the progression is made by increasing the set. Again, when it comes to increasing endurance, you first progress by increasing volume, and this can be done by increasing frequency, increasing sets, increasing number of exercises, and then you increase intensity. Considering the given case is not used to doing a high volume of high intensity repeated bout, progression is selected by volume by increasing sets, and this reflects by initially he was doing 10 sets, now he is doing 15 sets. So 15 sets of 6 seconds of sprinting within 30 meters at 110% of the mass. Oh, it is 100% of the MSS, that is maximal sprint speed. Initially he was doing 10 sets, now he is doing 15 sets. So this is a sample example of 4 weeks. Now there is no one optimal way of designing a program. The theme of this case is to understand, if you want to design a program, you first set a measurable goal. Then you create a periodized training and planning. And then you create a weekly program design, so that you apply principle of specificity, principle of periodization, and principle of progressive overload. As you are applying this principle, it guides you to make sure that each fitness variable is being designed by applying all the training principle, and this guarantees results per week and per session, so that you do not experience overtraining and you do not experience plateau. Thank you.